Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and welcome to another Media Matters for Anfield Index. A little bit expected, or unexpected, I should say, this one, being completely honest. It was a mixed bag, wasn't it? The refereeing was abysmal, the game was okay, but the result was pretty good, all things considered. So there's plenty to get stuck into with this one. I'm joined as ever by the renowned and the respected David Lynch, and I think we can say it, if we're being honest. Pleasant surprise with this one, David?
100%. I think we said previewing the game, I didn't expect anything other than a defeat for Liverpool, really, when you consider Inter's home record, the fact they've been finalists in recent years, haven't they? A really good side in Europe. It's away from home against the pot one. And just the way Liverpool have been playing, you didn't have high hopes coming into this one. But of course, football can surprise you. And it's not just that they got the win. I thought they kind of deserved to as well. It wasn't like blistering performance where they blew them away. But, you could argue they were the better side marginally. And to go away to those tougher Champions League away games and do that is, particularly given the current form, that's a major bonus. So huge credit to everyone involved, really. And really pleasant surprise, I guess.
It was one of those in context of the games. It'd be almost like if it was a boxing match, it'd be one of those cagey ones that we probably pinched on points almost. I mean, it was a really tight game. It almost felt like a zero-sum game. We were focusing on not conceding and may score, but it felt unlikely. But the result makes the game plan correct, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's it. If you're going to play like that, you kind of need the outcome. And that's why I think like Leeds felt so disappointing, because it was a similar kind of approach, but obviously they didn't get the defensive record, and they certainly didn't keep a clean sheet and didn't get the result. But I think you're much more accepting of this kind of approach as well in a Champions League away game. I mean, I did kind of think that and I think we did briefly touch on that this approach might slightly suit these Champions League away games. So we'll take that as call in this one, but it's it seemed to work in that context a lot better. It makes more sense to go to Inter away and try and just control them, limit them, and see what you can get. That's been the kind of archetypal Champions League away performance for many a year now. So to do it and get the result is really pleasing, as I say, particularly within the context of where Liverpool were up to. I think, been heavily critical of the manager and the players and everything really recently. But it isn't right to ignore when you see something that's positive. So, absolutely give them praise. And I think they fully deserve it for what they got yesterday.
And there was a lot of talk before the game of what it might mean, what are the future knock-on impacts there. But actually, when you have a look at that Champions League table, some teams have got to play tonight, but we're now in the automatic spots. I think the remaining games are pot 3 and pot 4, aren't they? Carragher, whatever they're pronounced, in Marseille, etc. So it's not looking as bad as you thought it could be by any means.
No, I mean, after the PSV game, the idea that they would get into the top 8 just seemed fanciful, really, didn't it? You just thought, well, okay, just try and squeeze through in that top 24. You're going to end up with a playoff there, which is going to be a nightmare, really. So, I think that was to be in this position now when you're top 8, and as you say, the kind of pots that Liverpool have got left. I know Marseille away is a tricky one, but I still think Liverpool have got enough to beat them, absolutely, given the gap between the two sides. And Carragher at home, again, is another one you'd think Liverpool should win. So, suddenly they kind of, if they do win those, they're almost, I'd say, with the points that gives them, that it's pretty certain to be top 8 if they do. They've obviously got to go and do that, and that's no easy task given how they've played recently. But, I just didn't think top 8 was going to be on the cards. And so this is a really, really important win for them. And puts them right back in with the shout of doing that.
It was all about the result last night. We will take that all day long. And I know you hate talking about referees and officiating, but it's a little bit tough because we've got to discuss some of these really from last night. And we'll kind of layer them one by one. This is still bugging me a little bit because everyone's giving it we didn't go with his studs. But Lautaro Martinez completely takes out Andy Robertson. He's aggressive, out of control. Not see the case for an upgrade there.
I think there does have to be studs involved for them to go red on these ones. It's just kind of shin on shin, and it's a yellow card. It's probably quite close to a red card because, as you say, I don't think the control was there. He does control it in the sense that he doesn't put his studs down. He pulls in, it's shin on shin. It would have really hurt Robertson. I don't doubt that. But it's probably just on the line for me. And I'm absolutely fine with that being a yellow card and not being upgraded, as much as it was probably a painful one to take the challenge. It's not a great one, but probably not a red for me.
We'll call that an orange card then in that regard. And I mean, this decision, not just this decision, the fact it took about 84 years to get to this decision. Van Dijk header onto Ekitike's arm, Konate puts it in. I mean, I've got a problem with the decision a bit, but the time taken's farcical, isn't it, really?
Yeah, well, I mean, this is it. I mean, I think it's unfortunate for Liverpool it doesn't get given in that, the header is onto him from close proximity, albeit as much as you can say it's an accidental handball, and it 100% is, and it's unfortunate, it does lead directly to a goal. So I'm that wouldn't have got given in the Premier League, by the way, that not the decision, I mean. So it wouldn't have been disallowed, I would imagine, because we know Premier League's got a higher bar. But I'm kind of accepting of, like, if UEFA want to have a lower bar, that's absolutely fine by me. We know it is what it is because it's the same for everybody. So if you benefit from a handball in the box and it ends in a goal a second later, you're not going to get the goal. I can kind of just take that. I think everyone, it's just one of those. I remember in the Europa League season a couple of seasons ago, McAllister handles one, doesn't he? Yeah. Really inadvertently before, is it Quanta scores maybe in one of the group games? And that is, so they've just got a low bar around these things, UEFA. And if there's any handling of the ball around a goal, they're not going to give it. I can accept it. It's fine. It's the rule for everyone. But we know that. So just rule it out. Hurry up. Rule it out. The moment I saw in the replay, so I think about 30 seconds after the goal goes in, they show a replay where it clearly hits Ekitike on the lower arm. And as soon as you see that, I'm thinking, this is getting disallowed. So if I know that, because I know what UEFA are like, I know they'll always err on the side of cautions with these kind of things. This is how they tend to deal with handballs. If I knew that in that moment, why do I have to wait another 4 minutes of watching players stood around clueless? What are they talking about? What's the debate there? Just rule it out and save us some time. And I think people would be more accepting of these decisions if they were quicker. It's just easier to stomach when it's done a bit quicker. Whereas when you add in a layer of kind of, well, they're debating about it, so they're obviously not sure, then everyone's going to go, well, that's nonsense then. It should have been given, and it would have been given in the Premier League. So the time just adds an extra layer onto it. And I would have, I'm absolutely fine with the decision because it is what it is in UEFA competitions. I'm fine. That is the rule, and they are really harsh on handballs, even if they're inadvertent. But just do it quicker, please do it quicker and save us all some time. Because I think that hurt Liverpool, by the way, in the kind of 15 minutes that followed. I thought they were good in the first half hour. Probably the worst period of the game for them really was the 15 minutes after that disallowed handball. So the disallowed goal, sorry. So yeah, it's not helpful either. So and I think it would be helpful for UEFA, by the way, and governing bodies in general to just really clean up that law at some point, and just make it as kind of hardcore as, like, if there's a handball of any type, inadvertent or not, before 3 touches before the ball ends up in the back of the net, the goal's ruled out. Be so much quicker, wouldn't it? Because that's factual. You can just look at it and go, right, there's a handball there, the ball ends up in the back of the net a touch later, gone. Just do that. That would be easier. Just anything that can speed that up and take any kind of subjectivity out of handballs.
Yeah, Robbo talked about it afterwards as well, to say it could be clear and obvious, but it's the time taken more than anything. And many will feel justice prevailed in the end, with Liverpool being awarded a penalty. But the reason I love saying this, that's never a pen, is it really?
No, it's a very, very soft one, I'd say. Again, one I don't think gets given in the Premier League. I mean, I had a few comments on YouTube saying, "Oh, it's not really soft, is it?" He grabs him, and they're right. I mean, it's a stupid decision from the defender. Is it Bastoni who gives it away? So needless in that situation with a player going away from your own goal. But it's at the end of the day, he's made that decision to do that. He's given them the opportunity to give it, and the moment the ref gets dragged over to look at it, I'm thinking, yeah, 100% a penalty. And I tell you what I would say about it, as much as it's a soft one and it wouldn't get given in the Premier League on the basis that it wasn't sustained holding, and I think that would be a fair decision. If Konate had done that in the same moment of this game, he would have been getting absolutely hammered by everyone. So, we've got to kind of take that same energy into this, in that it's a stupid decision from Bastoni, and he puts himself, he makes himself vulnerable by doing it. And so this one's gone against them. Maybe they're a bit unlucky. Maybe it's a soft one, but don't do that in the box. And I would have been going mad if a Liverpool defender had been doing that in that moment in the game, to be honest.
Yeah, true. And also, it proves, I don't care what anyone says, if Florian Wirtz doesn't sell that, he doesn't get it. When people say stay on your feet, well, nonsense. If you don't go down, if you don't sell it, you don't get it. So that comes into the mix with it as well. No doubts about that. I mean, positives from this game, because aside from the result, we should take a few. And probably the midfield is where it's right to focus. I mean, this man takes a brilliant penalty. This man is doing it all for us at the moment, Dominic Szoboszlai. And he spoke well again in the mix zone afterwards. But you almost saw that he was great on the defensive, covering back. He was great when there wasn't much of an attacking game. I'm not saying that. But man of the match, the official one. And we're almost just expecting this brilliance every game now.
Yeah, he's just been phenomenal all season, really, really kind of, he's already been very good, and we've really loved him as a player to watch, but I think he's gone up a level this season, hasn't he, in terms of kind of just being a leader for this side as well, and really kind of dragging everyone with him. And, I say I'm always reluctant to make the Gerrard comparisons, but a lot of what he's doing at the moment, both sides of the ball, the relentless running, the quality that he's showing, he's just a brilliant player and fantastic to watch. So, he was as key as anyone. And it's kind of weird, actually. I said this on YouTube last night, but his defensive numbers aren't actually that good. But anyone who watched the game knows how good he was in terms of like getting back in, covering, pressing, all the defensive aspects yesterday. He just was really good, and it shows you just can't just rely on statistics, really, because he was excellent. But he was great on both sides of the ball. Nerveless penalty, really kind of a performance of a leader in that team, and that's what he's emerging as at the moment.
Mad that he's got 10 goal contributions now all this season, and we haven't hit the turn of the year. And like you say, when it doesn't show in stats, it won't maybe show well that he actually stops them countering on us twice late on as well, pinching it and working back. So important. And there's a few in the chat panel calling this man out as well, and I think quite rightly, to be fair. Curtis Jones there, I mean, the most passes, 67, that elite ball retention, 96 pass success. But again, defending, attacking, he was everywhere. He does seem in a real purple patch right now.
Yeah, I think he, along with Szoboszlai, I think he's having a great season. I can think of very, very few poor Curtis Jones performances this season, really. I think he's one of the few players that's been in form, really. So, great to see him keeping it up. And I think this sort of game just suits him down to the ground, where like Liverpool have just got to go and control it, keep the ball, just win the duels, and he did all that like he always does. I think highest pass accuracy of anyone who played over 45 minutes, the most passes completed in the match, a lot of them forward, by the way, which is something he gets criticised about a lot into the final third, thrashing it through the lines, completes 3 dribbles as well, so some great feet in there as well. He was just fantastic, and made no secret of the fact, absolutely love this player, and maybe a bit of bias to the local lad or whatever, and you want to see him do well. I've seen him come through the academy, but so what? You do want to see local lads in the team and doing well, and I just think he absolutely, he's entering undroppable territory at the moment alongside Szoboszlai for me. So just got to keep him in there. I think he makes the team better, makes the team tick, and he brings that element of control that Liverpool need.
It's crazy to say that from the end of last season, you'd be at this stage and thinking it's Szoboszlai, Jones, and another in midfield compared to what the others did. But it is what it is a little bit. And I was going to ask you about the formation, because I think a lot were expecting Florian Wirtz to start, maybe, like a diamond with him just behind Isak and Ekitike. There was a bit of variation on it, and it was very much almost a zero-sum formation. We're not going to concede. We might get a little bit of attack. We'll see what happens. They did look a bit isolated, Isak and Ekitike, especially at times.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that when Wirtz comes on, he makes it easier to get the ball into them, and you think he is I think McAllister did okay in the game yesterday. I don't want to be overly critical. His numbers are pretty good. A couple of bozo-ish moments, but I actually think he was pretty decent. He worked as hard as anyone as well. But in terms of that linking things and being that kind of more attack-minded, I think it did improve when Wirtz was on there, to be honest, and Liverpool's ability to get the ball into the dangerous areas. So that's one criticism you would maybe have of that setup, is that it desperately needs Wirtz, but it kind of worked in terms of what Liverpool wanted to do. And, I think the manager's idea maybe was to let's keep things solid and try and go and win it later on. And that doesn't add up to loads of XG, but I thought Liverpool were better in an attacking sense in that last part of the game. And of course, Wirtz is the one who wins the penalty as well. So I think it's an interesting one. I think this formation, particularly with Mo going to AFCON shortly and hopefully coming back to the club eventually. But yeah, it makes a lot of sense to try this and stick with it. And there's a lot of players you can use in that formation whose profiles work. So definitely something that you need to kind of stick with, I think.
And speaking of things we need to stick with, I mean, Arne Slot, he badly needed this result, didn't he, after the situation? And again, it's not trying to be too dramatic. It's far too early to say a corner turn because we saw the Real result and what followed from that. But something to build on a little bit at least.
Yeah, 100%. Because you just kind of felt like if you lost this one and in a bad way and then went into Brighton and lost that, you're not a million miles away from the board kind of saying that we can't carry on like this. This has got to stop. So, he needed that. He needed a result that I think, it's one of the more kind of coherent tactical performances we've seen in a while as well, which is massive. You just need to. Even if it had just ended in a 0-0 draw last night, I still think there was loads of positives. We were messaging during the game saying this is actually pretty good what they're doing, and we've not felt that for a while. So I think it was important for the manager to get that, and then to get the win on top, even a bit of luck that they've maybe earned this season, because I think they've been bad and unlucky this season at times. So to get that feels pretty significant for him. Of course, he has to build on it. And as you say, we had enough false dawns this season, and I think you're looking towards a weekend, and they've had a week's rest. That's going to be really tricky. But it's a start, and it's better than a defeat, that's for sure. And it's better than a bad performance. So, just take that forward and see what you can do with it, really. And I kind of had a few comments on YouTube as well, kind of like, oh well, what are you saying about the manager now, kind of thing. But it's never personal when you're criticizing that. It's not kind of, well, actually, I see a lot on social media where they are quite personal. But I just think you've got to be able to kind of criticize when it's poor and try not to go too far in that. Which I think when we've discussed it, we've kind of not. But then when it's better, be willing to recognize that. It doesn't make anyone look stupid to say that last night was a tactically decent performance and Liverpool were much improved. I mean, I think that's what we all kind of want to see, isn't it? So. It was better. And as I say, equally, we don't want to go too far because, it's been an up and down season and this doesn't mean all the solutions are there and everything's absolutely fine. But it's so much better than the alternative of losing and playing poorly. So, it really, really, it's just a positive and a small positive, but a good step forward. And let's see if they can do more with it than they have the other positive results this season.
Yeah, and you're probably right. The thing to call out is probably the first game I've looked at in a while and thought, I get what he's trying to do. I think they're executing it quite well. And they almost understand their roles a little bit, however limited they are or not suiting them. So there was a tactical element there as well. And you talked about the reaction to certain bits. And we obviously talk about, the whole Salah slot situation. These sort of mystifies me a little bit. People seem bugged that the travelling cop, who again spend fortunes, go in their numbers, give brilliant support, was singing the Arne Slot that way song. It's like, that doesn't mean they all think he should stay long term. They're just showing their support. That doesn't mean they're against Mo Salah. It's just about showing you support in the stadium, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I hadn't really seen a lot of that, but it kind of, so this is what online fans kind of having a go at those who are travelling for doing that.
Like, singing Arne Slot and hypocrisy. I'm like, well, I want him gone, but I want him to win every game at the same time. Like, measure that.
Yeah, and the thing is, you might as well, up until the point the manager gets sacked, as supporters, you might as well support, because it's not going to be your call anyway. So, get behind him. And by the way, this is a guy who won the league in his first season. So, for all the criticisms we've given him in this podcast at times, it's like, why does it have to be personal and you have to take against him on a personal level to criticize? I don't think that has to be the case. So you have to feel aggrieved if someone's singing. And for me, I mean, that really frustrates me, the idea as well that kind of people are having a go at the fans who, as you say, pay thousands and thousands of pounds every season to go and follow the team all over Europe, have done so over years and years and years, and in bad years, by the way, which were not that long ago, years when Liverpool were dreadful. And that really was not that long ago. Go and watching them get beaten by awful teams and all over the place. They're absolutely, their opinions are, I don't know, people won't like this, but their opinions are a bit more valuable because they put more into it. It's their lives, so for them to sing and back the manager, people should respect that. And say, the idea that annoys anyone, I kind of find that a little bit baffling, really. It's even if Slot were to be sacked this season, I think the fans should be singing his name up until the last moment, because why not? It's not a personal thing, and you can be annoyed with how things are going, you can think he's not the right man, but you might as well, as supporters, support as well. And then when you're down the pub, say, I hope this fella gets sacked because I'm sick of him or whatever. That's fine. I just think that's the nature of being a football fan. And there might be a bit of hypocrisy there, but that's just how it is. And, you might as well back him and give him the best possible platform to win right up until the moment he goes. So amazing that people got annoyed about that, to be honest.
Yeah, it's sometimes just as simple as we can all look at this team and think it could be upgraded in positions, but when you go and watch the match, you want them to play well. It's not always that deep in that regard. Tell you what, though, we are going to have to steer into this topic, and we'll try and do it step by step, because as much as we talked about the game there, everything's been about off the field. And I never thought we'd be bringing Clarence Seedorf into this, but he's going to play a part, and players and all bits. But the one place to probably start, which is fan the Flames more than anything, is, I know you'll have seen it, Jamie Carragher's Monday Night Football. I don't know if you call it a diatribe or what you're going to describe it as. I mean, he didn't spare the horses, let's put it that way. What did you make of it all?
I have to say, I've watched it live on Monday Night Football, and when they were teeing him up to speak, and then he just came in and his first line was, "Yeah, it's a disgrace." I literally burst out laughing because it was just so you knew he wasn't going to be happy about it, but it was just so on brand and as you say, just absolutely pulled no punches and kicks off with that line, and then you kind of go from there. And I thought a lot of fair points in there. I think a few points have maybe kind of, people have not liked the way they were expressed, and maybe they were expressed a little bit clumsily, rather, I should say. Yeah. But I think a lot of sense in there as well, in terms of, I think this is the thing I will never move away from in this whole situation. And, I've kind of defended why Mo Salah might feel the way he does, but I absolutely, I won't ever get on board with that he was right to do it. And I think people should really have a think about whether, it's fine to be on Mo Salah's side and dislike the coach if you want to or whatever. He shouldn't have done this. You look at the perfect example of this is Andy Robertson and the way he's dealt with the situation of being probably unfairly benched early in the season for Kirkes, who was not pulling up any trees whatsoever. Robertson was playing better. He was being benched and he didn't come out and do this. So what's the difference there? One has done it in the right way. And I think it's very clear when you see what Van Dijk has said about it, what Alisson said about it, that they're not really happy about this and they don't think he should have done it. I thought Alisson, when he says, it's the consequence for what he did, and he's smart enough to know that, these are adults, aren't they, at the end of the day? And so we should hold Mo Salah to that sort of standard, really, of just behaving like an adult. So, I think he's right to be frustrated. I think it's unfair maybe that he's being singled out, but don't go and take it to the press and don't do that, really. It was a bit calculated, that. And I think that was the point Carragher was trying to make, really. And I think some of the stuff that's riled people is kind of what he said about the guy who failed at Chelsea, and to defend Jamie, I think what I would say there is the point I think he's trying to make there, and again, maybe it's clumsily, is that Salah is maybe only thinking about this from the point of view of this is everything I've given to Liverpool. Well, Liverpool has given him a lot. And I actually thought Van Dijk offered a bit of a reminder of this in his post-match yesterday when he said, we've won these things together. I've helped him to win things. He kind of worded it like that, although that's not exact. And he's right. It hasn't just been the Mo Salah show. He's been absolutely crucial. He wouldn't have won the league last season with him. Probably wouldn't have won, Champions League, all these things that they've won while he's been here. But he's a part of a bigger thing. And I think he should recognise that as much as anything. And I think that's what Carragher was trying to say there. And there's been a lot of kind of bad faith. Like I say, maybe some of it he didn't express in the best way, but I think there's been a lot of bad faith interpretations. And I don't want to have to see like some of the stuff that's been trying to slyly do him down on social media, which I've seen some of today by people who should know better. You might disagree with Jamie Carragher, but his right to say these things is just untouchable to me. People that completely disrespect him and people who don't know how good he was as a player, how good he was as a leader, trying to say Gerrard dragged him to Istanbul. Well, maybe Carragher dragged Gerrard to Istanbul as much as well, because he was phenomenal, not just in that game, but in that entire run. He was, in that period, one of the best defenders in the world for about 3 or 4 years. So he's like the second most appearances for Liverpool in history. This guy knows what he's talking about, and he's a local lad, and he deserves the right to express his opinion. So I don't like some of that's going on around it as well, really. The kind of disrespectful way that's been going at, really. So overall, it just adds to the noise and the messiness of the whole situation. But I didn't like several aspects of kind of the way it's been received, really, and I don't think it's done in good faith, really.
No, it doesn't seem to be in like good faith, almost across the board a little bit.
Sorry, just the thing is, someone in the comments said, why didn't he play for England? I think he got like 40 caps for England at the time when they had like an unbelievable wealth of central defenders. So that's not true at all. And also, he did play in poor teams and played so many games. Well, so did Steven Gerrard. And Steven Gerrard didn't win a Premier League either. Are we saying he's a poor player? Come on. I think it's people who did not watch him who are trying to pretend he was absolutely sensational. Like I say, one of the best in the world around a kind of 3 or 4 year period under Benitez. And maybe the other side to that, he didn't have as prolonged a peak as others, but his ability was phenomenal. Please don't underrate him as a player, because you don't like what he said. As I say, I don't agree with every aspect of it. I don't think it was always expressed, perfectly. But he's right to say it is unimpeachable. He's absolutely has the right to say that thing, and attempts to do him down as a pundit, as a player, as a person, or whatever. I just can't get on board with that, to be honest.
No, I'll be honest. I disagree with a lot of what he says as a pundit. That's a different thing. But I've been in a stadium that sung "We All Dream of a Team of Carraghers" as well. So let's not sort of reinvent history a little bit. But in terms of one man who I thought just nailed it. I'm sure you've all seen this. The Stevie G sort of does like a round table with McManaman and others talking about it. And he spoke so well in this. And he says there, obviously, he's really upset he's not playing, which I respect. He wants to help the team, which I respect. A couple of lines about throwing people under the bus, wrong. He needs to deal with that with the manager. And Gerrard also talked, I thought, really well about mistakes that he's made and his experience. I thought in terms of delivery of everything I've seen, Stevie G was just immaculate with what he said.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think he probably expresses it slightly better than Carragher, because I think it is a touch more measured, and there's always going to be this feeling of the Salah v Carragher thing going on in the background. So maybe kind of Gerrard being a bit removed from that is helpful. And I really did like, as you say, that he brought in his own mistakes that he's made, and tried to say, look, I can understand this. And, I think if Mo sees that, and hopefully he does, that will really help calm things down, because he'll see, someone of Gerrard's standing and ability and how respected he is at Liverpool, and to say, look, I've done this as well. I've made that mistake, but let's calm it down a bit. There's a way back from this. And, I thought he spoke brilliantly about it, really. And, it's one of those that you really hope sees, and it can help calm things down, and that there is a way forward with this, because it's just, I really, really don't want this to be the end of this story and to end in such a sad way.
You really hope it isn't. And you're right, because Alisson, I think, spoke so well in the press conference, Virgil van Dijk, Robbo afterwards, and yet probably one to talk about, and people quite rightly have been discussing this, Clarence Seedorf, and the way, he was quite pally, wasn't he, with Arne Slot hugging afterwards. And it's weird because he got a lot of criticism for his style, and people are like, he's cutting over Luis Garcia, he's cutting over Daniel Sturridge. But I was actually thinking, like, no, he's pressing Slot in a different way, that actually take that out of it. Yeah, we want these questions asked, we want it answered as well. And there was a couple of bits that, we've got to talk about this, because I thought he sort of pressed it well. The first bit he said was about, I believe that the team, the club and the coach, when a player is hurt for whatever reason, right or wrong, should make the first step and open the door for him to then see what is happening. That was my comment. And Slot was maybe in forthright Dutch style saying, okay, that's your opinion. And he talked about it afterwards. And there was also this exchange with Seedorf as well, saying, you say everyone makes mistakes in life. So the first thing should be, does the player think he's made a mistake as well? The next question is, should the initiative come from myself or from the player? I never said that I'm not going to talk to him anymore. And he kind of clarified it a bit in the post-conference press, because he got asked about it as well. It's interesting because we'll talk about the weak comment as well in the presser before, but this felt like it was Arne Slot saying, I'm not going to speak to it. I'm not going to not speak to him, sorry, but I ain't going to make the first move either.
Yeah, it's hard to... I don't know whether, Slot didn't want to kind of... I think when he went to clarify that, he was trying to make the point, wasn't he, that, it's not a kind of standoff, and it's not like, I'm not going to speak to him, I'm not going to speak to him first, I'm not going to speak to him first kind of thing. Yeah. I think this shows you the kind of role here that Richard Hughes has got to play as well, in terms of calming this down, bringing the two together, stop them kind of butting heads. Because, I thought Slot's comment pre-match around kind of, I'm calm, but I'm not weak kind of thing was interesting, in terms of, again, that's a bit of kind of both of them egos and coming up against each other and that kind of thing. So it's, I think you need someone in the middle, and it's not going to be Stevie Gerrard. It's going to have to be maybe, it's going to have to be maybe Richard Hughes to come in and sit them down, and as the club make the first move from that perspective, and really get them around the table before this game, before this potential, departure or whatever on Saturday. So I really do hope that's possible. But yeah, I thought Seedorf, he did cut over people, I thought, a lot in his punditry aspect, but his questioning was very good and very kind of forthright, and he got some good answers out of it as well. So absolute credit for that. It's almost a journalistic quality to it. So it was it was really interesting to watch.
Yeah, and plus he was the only one on that panel that can put his arm around Arne Slot like that, has that sort of relationship as well. So it worked well for us. And I do want to ask about this, because it was the one that stood out from me, as well as Alisson spoke and as well as Slot answered. It's the bit where he goes, where you say, I'm not weak. And I'm not saying he is for 1 second, but all the club media briefings, as you know, are about Richard Hughes ultimately has made the call to take him out the squad. That does look a little bit for me as though he's almost not cutting Arne Slot's legs from under him, but Arne Slot doesn't get the call, where you feel, shouldn't he make the decisions on a squad that way?
No, for me, I think it's not that he's kind of come over Slot and said, I will decide whether this is happening. I think it's more kind of, look, I'm the sporting director here. He's his line manager at the end of the day, and saying, look, the best situation here, the best way to deal with this, I'm going to pull you out now. You're not going to go to Italy. There's too much noise going on. Let's just let this settle for 24 hours or whatever, and we'll come back to it when they're really the other side of it, because it's a little bit heated. And this is what your sporting director's there for, by the way, is to manage situations like this, to manage issues with players, issues with the manager. That's his job. It's his job description. So I don't think it was kind of he was sweeping in there and saying, I'm going to make this call over you. I just think it's absolutely something that falls within his purview, and he's acted on it and made that call. So I think it got interpreted in a different way, and it was kind of like, oh, is Richard Hughes the manager then? But it's not been done in that way. It's kind of this is a significant situation where you need senior leadership to step in and try and sort the situation out, and that's what Richard Hughes has done. And now the big test of him now is what happens next. What do the talks go like this week when they get around the table? How can they find a path forward? Because I think regardless of what happens, at the very least, I would say it's almost certain that Mo Salah leaves in the next 2 windows at this point. But make it the second window. Don't make it this first one. It just would be such a sad ending to it. So hopefully Richard Hughes can, use all his diplomacy skills to get that sorted.
It is such a tough one. And there's a little bit of thinking, what do the powers that be like Hughes and Edwards actually want? But people are asking about, what about this for January? What about this for January? I think it's important to say at the moment, while the Mo Salah situation is what it is, it makes January very unpredictable, because it is fair to say it's on the table as a possibility he could go in January, which changes the whole window, doesn't it? And if it's just hard to say right now because of what's happening. Never mind the manager, what's going to happen in January.
Yeah, and it's not in Liverpool's control either, because there's every chance that they sit down. It might be happening today, it might be tomorrow. And Salah says, I'm going. I've had enough. I don't want to be here anymore. You're not going to play me enough, and I want to go in this window. So if that happens, they're going to have to grant his wish, because what's the point in keeping him around when he's unhappy? You're paying him 400 grand a week or whatever to sit around and not be happy about his role in the squad. And, he's shown he'll kick up a fuss. So he's not someone who's going to just take it till the end of the season. So he may really force the hand. I really hope it doesn't happen, like I say. I hope it doesn't come to that. And I hope just everyone can swallow the pride a little bit and get to the end, get to the end of the season at the very least. But yeah, a lot depends on Mo Salah and all this talk. I don't agree with it at all. Again, about he's going to be forced out the door, blah blah blah. He's getting kicked out. If Mo Salah goes in January, it will be purely his decision. Let me tell you that, because I think Liverpool would happily get to the end of the season and see what they can get out of him, hoping that it'll be more than this. If he goes, it will be all down to him at the end of the day, and that I think we can say that with certainty. So I really hope he doesn't feel like that. And I really hope there's just a way to get to the summer and a proper send off for him, really, because it would be really sad. And see talk there about sell Salah, get Semenyo in. I mean, you can say what you want about Semenyo. I think he's a good player, but he's not as good as Mo Salah, is he? Or certainly the Mo Salah we've seen over the last few years. So I don't really want to see that, if I'm being honest.
It just is as well, because people, you're right, everyone, we love the comments, people, and it's great that people express their views, but people saying this will definitely happen, this will definitely happen. It's like you said, this meeting, wherever this meeting's going to happen, it's key what's said, what's expressed, what's gone towards. And then it's still everything on the table, because I think people jumped on the Daniel Sturridge comment as well when he said, no, I've spoken to Mo and he says, he wants to stay. But then they're ignoring the second part where he said he also wants to play. And if Mo Salah's being told, you are going to be a sub, that's how we're looking at it, what's going to happen from there.
Yeah, and this is it. One thing I would like to see, and again, I've been critical of the manager around this aspect, is, he would say, look, what I've done in terms of the tactical setup in the last few games has worked, albeit not necessarily by results, but you look at open play, expected goals against in all these games. Liverpool have actually given up very little, even against Leeds. It's a set piece and a penalty that kind of does for them. So they have solidified themselves in open play. I know people don't like you saying that when they've conceded, to Sunderland, they conceded 3 against Leeds, but it's just look at the underlying numbers. It's genuinely true. But I don't like the idea that the manager's saying this is forever now, this is how we've got to play, because he's got to get more balance back into the team as well, because a lot of that has come with sacrificing creativity. So he's got to tip the scales back a bit at some point. And I'd like to think that Salah can be involved in that, because, to leave him out of 3 games, okay, fine, you've made that call, but he doesn't come on in 2 of them. And I just think that makes it a bigger thing, doesn't it? It makes it a bit more kind of significant, really. So, I want the manager as well to be able to say, I can platform Mo Salah, I can get a bit more out of him. It's not just going to be like this till the end of the season, and that has to be part of the conversation as well. And if he can do that, because the thing is, Salah his legs might be gone. He was never going to score at the rate he did last season, but I still like to think there's something in there where you can get something
Yeah.
out of an experienced player, some goals, some assists. The quality he's got. He might not be a runner, but can you platform in the way to get more out of him? That's what I'd like to see. So if they can do that, then there's a chance, isn't there, of limping on till the end of the season and making a call then. And like I say, I would much prefer that than a January exit.
It is still all on the table, no matter what anyone says. And it's great to win in the San Siro, but the games come quickly. And Saturday, 3:00, Brighton come to Anfield. I mean, how about this for a loaded grenade? Do you fancy Mo Salah's back for this one?
Yeah, very tough to say. It's all about the kind of outcome of the meetings that they have this week and how that works. I guess we'll get a clearer picture on Friday when the manager holds his press conference. And yeah, genuinely no idea which way that's going to go. I mean, I don't think he'll be back in the starting 11. I think I can confidently say that. But it would be good to get him back in the squad, and I really do hope so, because that gives a chance of a kind of, a repairing of the relationship, and the fact that Mo Salah will then come back from AFCON and be part of the squad till the end of the season. I really hope so.
Fingers crossed on that one, big time. And I know we looked at the bench last night as well, and it was so young. There was such a lack of experience for the options there. I mean, injury-wise as well, considering Mo Salah, obviously, a lot of people classed him as a winger. Doesn't sound too good with Cody Gakpo, and Chiesa was out as well.
Yeah, so with Chiesa, the hope is that he'll be back for this one. He had a small chance for Inter, but he should be back in the squad for Brighton, so that's good. That gives you a boost, albeit I'm not expecting him to start many games either, if I'm being honest. Gakpo, a few weeks is the description. So, we'll kind of see how long that is, and that is a blow. I don't think he's been playing well at the moment. I think he should have probably been taken out of the team a little bit earlier than he has been. Of course, that was enforced in the end, but to not have that option at least on the bench is a bit of a problem. And Liverpool, particularly if Salah's not there as well, they're looking a little bit thin, aren't they, in terms of the squad? Yeah. So fingers crossed they can start to get a few back. But it's it makes the coming games difficult. It makes the fact that Salah is away at AFCON and you've got no Gakpo as well now. It just makes everything a little bit harder. So fortunately, kind of the festive fixture list isn't as bad as it has been in recent years in terms of the turnaround between games. So thankfully, that's quite helpful. But yeah, it's not great to have these injuries piling up, and they've quietly had a few more injuries this season than they did the last.
Yeah, it's not quite the sort of sterling plaudits for Ruben Peets and those guys. I know part of it's luck, but doesn't seem to have been as good this season. I mean, Brighton coming to Anfield, because everyone's thinking, great winning the San Siro, a good result. You can't ignore that. But we don't want to see the likes of a Sunderland-style performance at home. But Brighton must be a little bit, you'd think, licking their lips at this. And the reason I say that is I watched them in their last game, only went and scored 2 set-piece goals as well. And what can't we defend at the moment?
Yeah, that is a worry. You never think of them as kind of massive specialists on that, but they're not bad at them either, and Liverpool definitely are in terms of defending them. So that is a little bit of a concern, you have to say. And they have had a lot of kind of late goals in games in recent times as well, and so they absolutely keep going. And you can almost imagine them scoring that late winner at Anfield with the way Liverpool have played recently. So it's going to be a tough one. And they'll be rested as well in comparison to Liverpool, who've put an awful lot into this game. Tuesday to Saturday maybe helps them. But yeah, we'll have to see how they go. And again, it's another one. You don't go into it with great optimism. But, if there is going to be a corner turn, then they've got to kind of back up what they showed in midweek. And hopefully this is the time that they actually do it.
I was going to ask you about that, because you feel like he's got to go back to back or start replicating things, because you get a good result in the San Siro, but if you get another like Forest style performance at home and result, it will almost seem like 1 step forward and 5 back, won't it? The knives will be back out for him and saying like, you can do this away, but you clearly can't get us working at home or an attacking balance at all.
Yeah, because you can't ignore as well that the points tally from the recent games where Liverpool have been a bit more solid in the Premier League, it just still hasn't been very good. They played against 16th, 18th and 7th in the league as it was at the time, and they didn't pick up as many points as they should have from those games. So, and the recent record at Anfield isn't very good either. So, they've got to start kind of really turning it. And as I say, you can't go too far as well. And I thought they were very good against Inter. They deserved to just shade the game, which they did. But equally, it's not a complete resurgence, and there's a long way to go. And the way to get on that track is to start picking up results and keep the performances coming. And they need to do that against Brighton, or if it's another defeat, you start to say, well, maybe they just got lucky against Inter or whatever, or this kind of low event games that they're trying to have at the moment is not the way out of this. So still massive pressure on the situation. Absolutely.
Yeah, we'll see what he does. And I suppose the only one I was struggling with it in terms of personnel, because I got what he did largely. We know Conor Bradley suspended for this game, so we know he can't play right back. So I think a lot of people thought, well, of course, he'll start in Milan because Joe Gomez, as we know, is taking injections and got all sorts of injuries. But Joe Gomez played most of the game. Was that a bit of a surprise at all?
Yeah, it was a little bit. I wonder whether Bradley did have a knock or something like that, or any kind of reasoning behind that, because it did seem a strange one, because he, as you say, he's not going to play this one. But, big faith in Joe Gomez again, though. I thought he played well. And he's fit at the moment, so let's try and get something out of him, and Bradley will be back for the next game. So you're kind of happy to see Joe Gomez go in again for that one, because I think he's playing well at the moment. So no problems with that, really, I guess.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see. And I suppose the final one on the Brighton game, are you expecting? I mean, surely we're expecting a bit more of an attacking input. You can't get away with the Sunderland, I think, a second time. Yes, in the San Siro, but it's almost felt like survival football a little bit rather than what you expect at Liverpool. You do feel it's obviously more of a gamble, but you've got to start being more attacking at some point.
Yeah, they've got to show more ambition. Absolutely. I just think they've... it's fine to solidify things for a bit, and they absolutely have done that. As I say, when you look at that open play expected goals, they've stopped kind of leaking so many in terms of that, and that's a step forward, no doubt. But with the quality they've got it. Management is about finding that balance, and I don't think Liverpool can kind of low block their way through the rest of the season. They're going to have to start to open up a little bit at times, and get more out of the attack as well. So hopefully this is the game where we see it. We say it every week. It's, you go into every game hoping it's going to be the corner turned. It's going to be the good performance you've long been waiting for. Maybe this one will be it. I think, at least they're coming into this with a bit more confidence after the Inter game.
Yeah, that's something at least. I mean, we'll see what Saturday brings. And I suppose the final one, because as you know, conspiracy theories are around. Everyone's got a take on everything. It still feels now that from now until Friday morning, 9 o'clock, I think his press is set to be, it just feels such a pivotal period in terms of the knock-on effect of the season, doesn't it? It's like a huge 48 hours is coming up.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, learning about Mo Salah's situation is huge for how the rest of the season plays out. It's huge for what happens in the January market, all those kind of things. Just seeing if he can build on this result as well, whether, the backing of the manager is still going to be there, and whether they can kind of, just keep going in a different direction than they have been recently, which has been poor. So hopefully this is the start of something, and the start of this season recovering. But we don't know. This is all the kind of crucial run really for the manager's future, for Mo Salah's future, for the whole season really.
Yeah, it does feel we're going to learn so much in the next 48 hours. But we learned last night that unity is strength. The Reds played quite well. They got a good result, which was what matters. It's now what can they do as we turn towards Brighton. All it leaves me to say as ever is, for the insight, answering all the questions, David, it is massively appreciated.
No, thank you. Nice to talk about a win for once.
Indeed, yeah. And ladies and gents, that was another Media Matters for Anfield Index.